What is going on out there, Couz's Corner family, Mountaineer Nation, Big 12 fans around the world or around the country, probably would be more like it. This is Couz. I'm here with another live stream, and tonight we've got a few little nuggets of information that I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of regarding conference realignment and the Pac-12, their media deal, and how it could impact the Big 12 conference. I am joined currently by Nathan Bomber Brown. Say hello, Nathan.
How you doing, Couz? Good to be here. Again, nice to share your time with you tonight.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for coming on. For those of you who don't know, Nathan is or Bomber, I guess he's what he goes by. He's on Twitter. You can find him on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
You can find me under BYU_Bomber or B12 Mafia. So I'm trying to do Big 12 coverage since we're glad to be in the Big 12 now.
Right.
And we're starting to cover that too. So at B12 Mafia is probably the one we'll go with.
Yeah, at B12 Mafia. Check him out. He's part of the Big 12 family now. As you see right underneath me, the big white Y for Brigham Young there. We are proud to have those guys coming into the conference. So should have been in a Power 5 conference of some sort a long time ago.
Yes.
To be quite frank with you, the Pac-12 should have accepted them a long time ago. But
yeah,
we're glad they did.
Show for another night, Couz.
Yeah, we're glad they didn't.
Yeah, we're glad to be here. And I think in the long run, I think you'll see 99.9% Cougars why they wanted to be in the Pac-12 all the way back into the 80s. We're very glad to be in the Big 12. And it's so impressive to be here. And everybody's been so, it's rivalry friendly, but it's not hate filled. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so far, I mean, you're going to have, obviously, we all have our fans that we would prefer not to have, but every fan base has those people, right?
Of course.
It's part of it. Yeah. But man, the Big 12, man, I have fallen in love with this conference more and more, especially since I've started doing YouTube, man. This conference is just, I love it, man. The fans are great. The schools are great. The cultures are great. To me, it fits West Virginia to a T from a culture perspective. So,
oh my heavens, the balance between the schools. Everybody's so equal on so many levels. We don't have prima donnas. Nobody needs prima donnas nowadays. And for the Big 12 to stand out, we really need to own that and understand we're number 3, but we're proud of number 3, and we're going to own it. And that's what Brett Yormark's doing, isn't he? He's taking over.
Oh man, yes he is. Yeah, that guy's going to. He was definitely a good hire for sure. Outlaw of College Football's on here. Thank you, Outlaw. He says, late little couch burner. Yeah, I was late, man. Had some technical difficulty. I had to change locales for the show, and I'm having to use my in-laws' Wi-Fi. They're out of town at the moment, so I came over here where it's quiet, and I don't have anybody asleep, so I can do this. Because I don't get to do live streams as much as I'd like, so when I get an opportunity, I want to jump on it. But what I wanted to talk about tonight is, or what I should say, Nathan and I want to talk about is, most of you on here, some of you on here may be familiar with a guy named Greg Flugauer. He has his own show called College Football's Peak Around the Corner. Well, he has some connections, reportedly, with some Big 10 folks who also, they kind of run in the same circle with some, what he calls the money perch at Arizona State.
Right.
And I'm assuming it's somebody, either a booster or somebody related to a booster that knows a booster, whatever. But he calls it the money perch. He won't give any specifics for obvious reasons. But he has been he's been getting these letters. He's gotten about 3 of them already that from Arizona State, from this guy at Arizona State, that talks about where they stand, how they feel about this whole Pac-12 situation. And, basically their chances of going to the Big 12 is tied into that, right? Well, an interesting letter he mentioned today that he received about 2 or 3 days ago. I jotted down some notes here. I'm going to put a link to Greg's show in the description box so you guys can go check it out for yourself, and I recommend you do that. It's one of the fastest growing YouTube channels out there, especially in the college football side. Does fantastic work. I really like Greg. But anyway, and by the way, he was one of the first people to predict that USC and UCLA were going to the Big Ten.
That's right. April last year.
Yes.
Right.
He predicted it months in advance. He also predicted, not college football related, but just to show that he is connected. He knew ahead of time that Arizona State was getting something about their hockey program that nobody else knew about, and he knew about it. So he tells people that to show them that he's not just out here making up stuff, right?
That's right.
And almost everything he has said has ended up coming to fruition. Did I describe that right, Nathan?
I wouldn't disagree with any of that. Greg's been fantastic. I promote him all the time on Twitter, and if you're not watching Peek Around the Corner every time he's on, you're definitely missing something. So I would subscribe, and I really believe that aligns with your show exactly, Couz.
Yeah.
Stuff that really aligns with the way that you've been handling Big 12 and for that matter, realignment.
Right. Yeah, Luis Carlos Diaz. He said he's ahead of me a little bit, but he says April 28th to May 17th is his prediction, and he thinks that something will happen within that time frame. But let me get right to the nitty gritty here. He says the first bullet point I jotted down was they don't necessarily know the details of their deal yet, obviously, but they do know the general information about where they're going to land from a revenue perspective. And they apparently have an idea that it's going to be a 5-year deal because he mentions 5 years in this letter that he wrote multiple times. He keeps saying 5 years, 5 years, 5 years.
Right.
Says it 3-4 times in this letter. Okay. He talks about how the deal what they know of the deal, where they're going to land from a financial perspective, is not sustainable for the athletic department at Arizona State. He said those words, not sustainable. Matter of fact, he said it a couple of different times. And if you see something I missed here, Nathan, feel free to correct me.
Sure.
Details of the deal are unknown, but they're saying the details have become much less important. The only detail they care about right now is ESPN. They want to make sure they're on ESPN. If they don't get on ESPN, not good. But everything else has basically become just noise, he said, which is a little shocking. That tells you how desperate, that tells you how bad this situation has gotten.
Well, it tells you how bad they misread it last fall.
Yeah.
When everybody knows, and we're not talking about anything that hasn't been talked about the last 9 months, but Kliavkov was given a number in August of last year. He said, Fox, ESPN, this is it. And they are so prideful in the Pac-12 that they think that they are absolutely right behind the Big Ten and SEC. They're living in their own little world when it comes to that number he's trying to get, 40, 50 million. It's ridiculous. There was nobody ever saying that was going to happen. And so they're living now in this alternate reality where, like Greg says, that they already know what they're going to get. Now they just have to come to a decision at the school. What do they want? What are they willing to give up? And ESPN, it sounds to me like, is they don't have it, it's pretty much over.
Right. Yeah. Some more details here, and we haven't even got into the juicy stuff yet. He says they expect to know something real soon. And he said if everyone remains through the spring of this year, meaning if all the teams remain in the league through the spring, then he thinks everyone's going to stay.
Right.
So springtime here is the key. He says that schools with Big 12 and I'm paraphrasing this now, by the way. These are not exact quotes. Schools with Big 12 as an option don't need much more time. Well, that was terrible grammar. Schools with Big 12 as an option don't need a lot more time to know if they have institutional support.
Right.
So politics keeps coming up in this conversation.
And boosters carry heavy weight when it comes to athletics.
Yep. Boosters, the board of regents, presidents obviously matter. But basically the four corner schools, or at least three of them, Colorado, Arizona State, I think I don't think Utah, I don't think they're even considering the Big 12 at this point, to be frank.
Not unless somebody puts a knife to their throat.
Right. Yeah, Hank, we're going to get to that in a minute, buddy. I see that comment. I've already got one Oklahoma fan wanting to come on, or a content creator wanting to come on here and debate me over it. So it may get fun later. But they they kind of already know how much institutional support they have, but they're still, I guess, in the finishing stages of figuring that out.
Right.
But they they kind of have an idea. And he made the comment they are at the last phase of that.
That's right.
Of knowing how much institutional support they had. The Arizona schools, along with Colorado, were continuing to gather information about that. And this was, to me, the big part of this. not much more can be ascertained after mid-May. So, but sometime between now and mid-May, they will know all they need to know about whether they need to stay in the conference or not, or whether they will be staying in the conference or not. Now, that tells me that they don't necessarily even have to see the deal,
right,
official deal, before they make a decision.
And I think this aligns with what happened at Colorado yesterday. No, we haven't been given any details, but I think anybody who's been following this at all knows that the Board of Regents, when they get together, they have these straw votes, right? They're not formal votes. They're not the ones that have to be out in public, but basically they go around a table somewhere or on video and they say, where does everybody stand? Are you guys tired of this? Do you want to move? Where are you looking at? And I don't think anybody should be dissing the fact that there wasn't an official announcement coming out of Colorado yesterday. I definitely think that they're doing internal, and it sounds to me like Arizona State and UA are doing the exact same thing. They're trying to decide what's worth it, what are they willing to give up.
Agreed. And I think, and in a previous letter that Greg had, the one before this one, a few weeks back, the Arizona State person made a comment that them and Arizona are no longer connected at the hip, so to speak.
Yeah.
One could move without the other one moving, whereas in the past that wasn't the case. Right. I think they want to do the same thing, but they don't have to do the same thing.
Well, have you noticed just in the last few days, there's been some disinformation now put out. Now, all of a sudden, Colorado and Arizona are the least valued in the Pac-12. I don't know if who's seen those comments, but now you're starting to get this negative messaging going out to the world saying, oh, we don't need Colorado. We don't need Arizona. They were gone anyway. They're only a basketball school. Colorado sucks and all these other things. And Washington State and Oregon State all of a sudden look like cherries, right?
Right.
It's totally psycho. None of this makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? To keep going here, I mentioned earlier they should know something soon. He says again in this letter later on, the deal will be unsustainable. They are not only going to fall behind the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, and the ACC. They are also going to fall behind the Big 12 for the next 5 years. So there again, the 5-year number came up.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned one more time that they were in the last phase of figuring all that out. So, and like the person on here mentioned earlier, they think it will be between April. Greg, he didn't hear this in his gut. He thinks it'll be sometime between April 28th and May 17th.
Right.
As to when decisions will be made. Now, what this tells me, Nathan, and you tell me if you agree, I think based on the institutional support piece of this, I think it's going to be really. I'll be surprised if any of these teams move. I think it'll take an absolute catastrophe deal for them to move. What do you think?
I go back and forth. Right when this happened, I thought for sure everybody would want to jump and be in the new club that is the Big 12, which is going to be the dominant number 3 conference. If it's not already, it will be by the fall this year. I thought everybody would want to go, want something new. Everybody likes change. But as we've seen, these Pac-12 schools, they're so caught up in their own story that they honestly believe that they're going to weather this thing. And I don't know, 5 years, the last comments that Greg mentioned in his note today was Arizona. And this, I'm going to paraphrase this, but basically he's saying, are we willing to wait 5 years and run the risk of becoming less valuable, i.e. irrelevant?
Mm-hmm.
Because they no longer have the visibility. Fox isn't covering them anymore. Maybe they have a smidgen of ESPN coverage, but is that enough to carry the day? I find that hard. So I'm torn. You asked the question. My answer is, do I think it's a possibility? I actually do. I didn't 2 weeks ago, but I think Colorado is right there. And I think Arizona has already made up its mind. They're waiting for somebody else to be the brave one to move, though.
Yeah.
And isn't Colorado easy to move? They moved once. What was it, 12 years ago?
Right.
Why not move again? It's not like they've been in the Pac-12 for 100 years.
Yeah. Everybody, real quick, while I'm thinking about it, please like the video if you don't mind. Like this live stream. Help get more people on here. Hopefully, help get it pushed out into the algorithm a little bit more. But I want to thank Nathan again for coming on with me tonight to discuss realignment. But Outlaw College Football says BYU was the jewel that the Pac screwed themselves on with their elitist horse manure.
That's a fact, Jack. Yeah. And Jim Williams said it. People have been saying it in back corners for decades, but Jim Williams was the first one that finally broke the story on that on 365. Which is Sikkim is amazing, right? They're a great group. Group of guys too.
They're one of my. They've become probably my favorite show on YouTube, to be frank with you.
And I think I might have been the first one to retweet his quote where he was talking about the value that Brigham Young could have brought in the contract, and that number was as high as somewhere between $45 and $50 million to the contract. Well, if the contract's $380 million, $50 million is a good portion of that. So the Pac-12 is just, I'm biased. I come from Pac-12 country. I love UW and I love Wazoo. I'm from Washington, but I am a BYU guy through and through, and they should have brought him in after they won the national championship in 85 or 86. SI ran a story. I've got the SI, actually the magazine, in a trunk in my garage. But they ran a story, and the headline on the cover was BYU to the Pac-12. And if SI was talking about it in the mid 80s,
wow,
it's amazing to wonder how it took so long to get to where we're at.
Well, no wonder your fans are so excited, man. You guys have been waiting on this moment for literally about 40 years almost.
Probably, yeah, since 78, 79. Jim McMahon put on some shoes and boots, and he was out there, and ever since then we've been. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think BYU is the most athletic. We have challenges. We have some special rules that the students have to go by, and we have some distinct challenges. And who knows if we're able to ever be in the playoff? But I'll tell you this: once we get rolling, the support for the Big 12 is going to be through the roof. You're going to see Oklahoma State versus Houston games broadcast. Because it's Big 12 in Japan, and that's because that's a following from BYU.
Wow.
So the whole conference is going to benefit from BYU being in here.
I agree. I mean, I've said they were my number one choice when I said that, the Big 12 is expanding. I've said, BYU needs to be on that short list.
Right.
The other three, I don't dislike them. BYU was the one I thought we had to have.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to the other ones. I think they kind of fill inventory.
Well, and they're newer comers too, right? Give them credit. They've all done well recently. BYU has been up and down for years. I don't think anybody can deny that. But at the same time, I think our top end potential, in my opinion, is much that limit is much higher than your average newbie to a P5 conference.
Right. But yeah, I mean, no disrespect to the new teams. I just thought BYU was I thought they had already earned their spot years ago and just, hadn't had a chance yet. The other ones are just now getting to the point where they can really justify being in a power conference, I guess, so to speak.
Right. Not to take over the show for BYU, but I'm just seeing comments from Outlaw of College Football, and he's got it. That's a fact. Yeah. They're the last, P5, non-P5 school to win the national championship. And you could debate, their schedule and other things, but using the system that was in place at the time, they got it and they won it, and it's in the record books. You can't take it away. So
right. Absolutely. And so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. At the end of the day, I like I said, you said earlier, yes, it is possible. I do think it's possible.
Right.
That it happens. I just think it's unlikely. Now, I just think some of these boosters and these presidents and these board members, it will absolutely make them sick to their stomach to have to be affiliated with the Big 12 Conference. I really feel that way. And they're going to do it. You would almost have to put a gun to their head to make them do it, in my opinion.
And I think maybe, the Pac-12, I don't know if you know this, being from West Virginia, so I'm a little biased. If I say something that is, it sounds lesser than you, please forgive me. I'm not sure how much you know about the Big 12 or Pac-12, but the Pac-10 itself, they've been calling themselves the Ivy League of the left coast, right? They've been saying Stanford and Cal and UW, those three in particular, have always advertised themselves as the Ivy League that plays big league football on the West Coast. And that part is going to be hard for them to let go, like you're just saying. And maybe it's insurmountable. Maybe the only way that it breaks up is it blows up. Literally, conferences cease to operate the way that they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got pragmatists in Colorado. I think you have pragmatists at Arizona. Arizona State, I'm still iffy on. But if UA and Colorado go, I think ASU just says, you know what, let's just go. I don't know if you know this, but Arizona and Arizona State have only been in since '78. They were in a conference with BYU back in 75, 76, 77. So it's not like they're lifers either. They've only been in there for a little over 40 years. So they have the least to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this whole conference thing. It's crap. I mean, West Virginia's been in. Gosh, history's not really my strength, but I know they've been in at least 3 or 4 different conferences already. I know, obviously, the Big 12, the Big East. Before that, they were independent, actually, in football.
Well, in West Virginia, they were 90s were great for West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
We watched that football all over the country. They had nothing to apologize about at all.
Yeah, they when in 1988 when we played Notre Dame for the national title, we were actually independent at that time. We weren't even in a conference.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in football we were. Now we were in basketball. I think we were in the Atlantic 10 at the time. I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But in football we were independent, and we joined the Big East sometime in the 90s. I don't remember the exact year. And of course we were in it up until 2012 when we came to the Big 12. So. Thanks for the super chat, Outlaw. He says BYU beat 5 Pac-12 schools in one season a few years ago. The elitist hypocritical biases by Stanford and Cal screwed BYU.
And they've been doing it for decades.
Yep,
so
sure have.
Whether you like BYU or not, and I'm going to say this, being new to the Big 12, I honestly, I'm still catching up on some of the history for the Big 12. I remember the Big 8. I remember the Southwest Conference.
Mm-hmm.
So I have history all through that. But the Big 12, I haven't been a part of, and so we're still getting used to that. But what I wanted to say is the BYU, you can love them or hate them, but they're going to bring dollars to your doorstep. Every one of these road games that BYU's at, we're at West Virginia this year. I know you already sell out, but you're going to have a lot of blue and white in those stands that day. And I think they'll be showing out in every game that'll be in the Big 12 going forward. And you guys are going to be cashing checks, not in alcohol, but maybe in candy and ice cream.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm hoping to make to that game. I'm not sure if I will or not, being that late in the year. My wife typically doesn't like to go to games late in the season because it's cold. And,
right, of course.
So I don't know whether we make it to that one or not. Who knows? But Daniel Gigal, thank you also for the $9.99 super chat. He says, and I hope I got your last name right. If I didn't, I apologize.
Gygax?
It might be Gygax.
Gygax, maybe? Yeah.
Maybe. I was just assuming the X was silent, but it may not
yeah, like French. Okay.
It may not be.
Right.
But anyway, it says the Pac-12 was touting how they owned the after dark spot. BYU Baylor doubled the average viewership.
Right.
It's where there is a lack of fan engagement for schools not named Ducks or Huskies on the left coast. Bingo.
Exactly right. Yeah.
When you take, and I've looked at the numbers, and I know the numbers came from a Pac-12 person, but the numbers I've seen, when you take Oregon and Washington are two of the top brands that aren't in the Big Ten or SEC. I'm open to that. I'm honest. I'll tell you, they bring eyeballs to TV screens. They're very, very good brands. Okay, but when you get outside of that, nobody in that conference really that's going to be remaining because USC is leaving. Right. Not really anybody else has a passionate fan base like they do.
Utah's the only one.
Yeah, Utah's okay. Yeah, Utah's not bad. They're not bad, but they're still not.
No,
they're not any better than several of the teams in the Big 12 or.
But they fashion themselves on the same plane. That's the reason. Give you a little bit of history about Utah is when they were promoted, they were really taken instead of BYU. There's a lot of political reasons for that. There's a lot of reasons BYU didn't go to Pac-12. And so when they went, they became the most rabid, the most fanatical Pac-12 homers that you'll find. In fact, if you're online at all anymore during realignment, you're invariably running into Utes that are very proud of their school. And I respect Utah. I think that they came from the same place we did, and I think they've overachieved. Kyle Whittingham, their coach, is amazing, and he would have been good anywhere, and he decided to stay at Utah. So I really respect that, and that's why they're so passionately attached to the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 is the ones that let them in the club, and they're loyal, and I appreciate that loyalty. I just think there needs to be some pragmatism in there too.
Yeah, right. I agree. And it is Gigax. You were right, Nathan. It's Daniel Gigax. So, Daniel, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Hopefully I won't ever do that again now that I actually know how it's pronounced. But I'm not making any promises because I do tend to screw up a lot. I did a video the other day. You were talking about the Southwest Conference. It was about the history of Texas and Houston.
Right.
Dude, I bet you I made 4 or 5 different errors in that video between pronunciations, getting facts wrong. And I had everything in front of me.
Right.
Somehow or another in my research, I wrote some stuff down wrong. And and that was the day the Golden Blue dude had just passed. And to be frank with you, I probably shouldn't have been doing a video that day. I really wasn't mentally engaged. But man, you know what I discovered? The Houston fans were extremely gracious to me through that. They would come on my comments and correct me, but they did it in a very kind way. Like they weren't
that's good,
mean, over the top. A couple were, but most of them were not. Most of them they probably knew I was just, made a blunder. But I called the Southwest Conference the Southwestern Conference for some reason. I called Andre Ware Charlie Ward.
Oh, okay.
Because of the Ware Ward name.
Right.
And I had it wrote down on the paper in front of me, and I still said it wrong. But when you said Southwest Conference, it brought back some bad memories there.
Well, I think there's obviously hard feelings there down in, I mean, the whole middle of the country, most people don't appreciate it unless you're from that part of the country or you're a bit of a historian. I kind of think that I'm like that. And you get Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, I wish those schools were still in the same conference. Missouri, even, it's really sad when TCU and Baylor got ripped off. I mean, it would just, when that all blew up down there, when the Big 12 was formed and everything, that was pretty, that was ugly. That was a bloodbath a little bit.
You talking about when the conference was formed?
Yeah.
Well, Houston, apparently for political reasons, Houston got left out.
Yeah.
In favor of Baylor.
Okay.
And TCU
I don't think I ever knew that. I never understood why them and TCU.
Well, I mean, that's what most of the Houston fans will tell you. It was because of the president of Baylor at the time, I'm thinking. Anyway, someone high up in Congress in the state, I know it was the governor. The governor of Texas was a Baylor grad. So I guess they're saying that, the governor, which I think was a woman, I can't remember her name, but she basically made sure that Baylor got in. So
yeah, that happens everywhere. It happens with every conference and stuff like that goes.
West Virginia, when the Big 12 was choosing between West Virginia and Louisville,
right?
Joe Manchin, who was had just become a U.S. senator, I think, at the time, and he's a big Republican Congress guy or senator out of Kentucky. Anyway, he used to be the minority leader. But anyway, you know who I'm talking about. They basically got in a shouting match, I think, in the Senate over which team was getting into the Big 12.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Joe Manchin played football at West Virginia, so he's
okay.
He bleeds gold and blue.
I actually like Joe Manchin. He's a little bit of an oddball.
Yeah.
He's a independent streak, and I really kind of like that. He doesn't let anybody tell him what to do. But you got a lot of these are. I love your chat here. You guys have a lot of people that come in here, and sometimes it's helps those messages when you get super chats because they highlight, and I miss that, so I'm trying to read these things as they're going. But there's some really good comments in there. I mean, the histories of all the conferences, that would take many hours and lots of different topics to cover. But just to circle back to Greg's article and where you started at, Couz, is that his biggest point is we're close. right? I think you got the feeling
Yeah.
too that he really believes that, yeah, we could see something in the next month and a half. And
Yeah.
even though it drives business and everybody likes talking about it, I think everybody's getting a little bit tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, look, I would be lying if I said at times I didn't enjoy talking about it because it's just, I don't know. There's something about, there's fun in chaos for some reason, you know?
Right, of
But
course.
as long as it's obviously chaos, it's not violent. You know, I think
Oh,
everybody knows
no,
what I'm
no,
saying.
no. I get what you're saying. Totally.
But yeah, but after so long, you're like, man, can we just play a game already? You know?
I know this is the longest off season ever, and it's been crazy. And I can
Yeah.
guarantee all the new schools, Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, all the new kids on the block are itching to get on the
Yeah.
field and play.
Yeah.
You know, BYU was picked to be 5-7. I got to tell you, that really hurts. I don't know if it's way out of bounds, and we're really going to be humbled this year. That is a possibility. At the same time, I kind of think in the back of my head we might go 7 games. We might go 8 games. So we'll just have to see. But I think everybody's ready to play some football.
Agreed.
Mitch McConnell is what he says.
It was Mitch McConnell. Let me get to this super chat here. Grand Dan, thanks for the $5 super chat. He says, Senator Mitch McConnell, thanks for the discussion. If Colorado is not an option, who would BYU like as a travel partner in the Mountain Time Zone?
Honestly, I think people would love to see ASU. There's a lot of LDS people that are in Arizona, and ASU I think would be. They were an old teammate in the past, and I think everybody would love to see them. They also align. There are some similarities there in the organizations of the schools. UA would be fantastic. And then I'll pick a dark horse. I would love Washington State. Now, they're not going to bring a lot of eyeballs, but they can play football and they're a passionate fan base. In fact, outside of Utah, they may be the most passionate in the Pac-12 right now.
Yeah. But I saw somebody earlier mention Arizona when we were talking about Oregon and Washington being the 2 biggest brands left. Somebody mentioned that Arizona State was 3rd behind them, and I think I do recall seeing that on the charts and graphs that I looked at.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And I think
that Arizona State was the 3rd biggest fan base in the league, or 3rd highest TV ratings, or something along those lines.
I really like the messaging that's come out of Arizona State. I think that they've done a good job of communicating, and especially because Flugar has gotten those inside tracks from the money perch.
Yeah,
I think that's a big deal.
By the way, guys, Hank just likes to have fun and talk some smack. He's good. Somebody said Hank was trolling.
What did he say? I didn't catch.
Oh, he earlier he said BY. He said BY who.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And he said that something. Yeah. He's just been talking smack about the little 12 and.
Oh yeah. No, I know BYU. That was actually said on the Today Show after they were voted number 1. That was that's a story for another day, Couz.
Who's from the Hills, by the way? That is my channel partner there, Paul. I'm assuming is running that chat. I hope he is. If not, it's a stranger. But that's a basketball channel that he and I do together where we cover West Virginia and a little bit of Big 12 basketball. So,
oh, cool.
But yeah, I asked him if he wanted to jump on with us earlier, and he was just telling me he didn't see my text message.
So I got a question for you, Couz.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the west side of the country. I'm really, really interested. Who would you like to see as the Eastern travel partners? What do you think of the Villanovas and the UConns if they came in with football? And I really want to hear what your opinions are about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having Cincinnati's not bad. I mean, that's not a bad school to have with us. They're about 200-ish miles away.
Okay.
Now, obviously for football, we would love to have, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Louisville. Those are kind of the 3 at the top of my list.
Right.
Because of regionality and old rivalries.
Okay.
But now in basketball, if we could get some of the old Big East schools like Villanova that you mentioned, UConn, I would actually like to have UConn. I bring this up on almost every show. I would actually like to have UConn. I know people think this is nuts, but I think they would not be a bad member for football. Because
I think they'd be great.
If UConn is given the right amount of resources, I think they can be competitive.
I 1,000% agree, and I think your Mark sees that. Right, he's looking down the road 1,000 miles, and that's why he's talking to. I hope no matter what happens with the Pac-12 schools, I hope Gonzaga and UConn join. I would love to have both of them in the conference. And who cares about the scheduling challenges that you're going to get if UConn comes in as an odd number for what they would be 13, I guess. But let them come. I think with the resources, that whole northeast corridor is wide open, and it opens up a huge area for recruiting.
Yep. Gregory Crux says, as a W fan, VT Pitt, Louisville, Syracuse. Yep. Syracuse is another one that wouldn't be a bad addition.
Now that's upstate New York. How far is that, like, regionally from you guys?
It's not too far. I mean, because Morgantown is actually in the very northern part of the state, so just right below Pittsburgh. So it's really not too bad of a drive from Morgantown to upstate New York. If I had to guess, it's probably 5-6 hours, maybe.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's a day trip. You could do it in a day. Okay.
Yeah. It may even be less than that, honestly.
Well, I think Syracuse, they played football big time in the 90s. They had a good team. The Carrier Dome was a horrible place to go play.
Right. Outlaw College Football, another $2 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says Utah win over Bama, got them in the Pac mini say.
That was one of them. I'm telling you, any BYU person will tell you this, and most Utah should admit it. They were an alternate because they weren't going to take BYU. It's just flat out. Utah, they weren't a research one. They weren't a lot of these other things. And when they joined, it was because we can't have BYU. We're not taking BYU. We need somebody else.
Right. Jason Watkins, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We started out the show talking a little bit about some conference realignment. This is Nathan Bomber Brown. He's a BYU fan.
Hey, what's up, Nate? How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Doing well. I've watched your show a couple of times, man. I like it.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I've only got a couple videos up. I'm still sort of going. I'm actually
started, huh?
Yeah, just getting started. I don't necessarily like to do them on myself. I really like being a contributor and helping build the community.
That's probably where I've seen you more than you've kind of been on some other shows and stuff, haven't you? Because you look familiar. I know for sure that I was
on one. I was on one other show, and then I've done one live on my own.
Okay.
But I've done a lot on Twitter, and that's probably where you see me. And I'm pretty active, and I'm trying to really bring as much BYU into the wider Big 12 world, because we really want to be here, and we're very grateful to be on the team, as it were.
I've been one of the guys saying that you guys are trouble. Trouble.
What do you mean by that? I want to know what that means. What is trouble?
I mean that BYU is instantly one of the best teams in that league. Period.
Oh, wow. Well, I sure hope so. They were not picked to do well in this next football season, but I think they're being undercounted a little bit.
If
you didn't watch BYU last year,
he's a heck of a coach, man.
Oh, he is. He is. If you watched them all last year, the reason they had problems is honestly they lost 4 games in a row because their defensive coach should have been fired the year before.
Right.
And now we got a guy that
issues, didn't
different. You know what? We had a really strong team last year. Yeah, I mean, every team has dings and whatnot, but it was really the defensive scheme. We just couldn't stop anybody in the middle of the season.
And I saw that Coach Gundy kind of took a shot at ETN for being headed that way.
Now that's a big get for BYU. Around here, that made big news.
That's a bad loss for Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State has been hemorrhaging players since this season. And that's why I came on here to bust Couz's chops a little bit about his rankings. But I got to tell you, this stuff like that, for him to come out and do something like, he felt he got beat out of the starting job, so he left.
Right.
What are you doing as a head coach to go and attack this kid like that?
I don't know. That was really
make
personal.
Him look that way. I think it's and he's done it. This isn't the first guy he's done it with. And all of a sudden it's everybody else's fault except for Mike Gundy's fault.
What's happened in the last 2 years with Oklahoma State, guys? You got to tell me what's going on with that school. 2 years ago, they were top 10. I don't get it. They lost to Baylor, and now their team's falling apart.
Yeah, it's Well, what I'll tell you what it is that he doesn't have to really. They don't hold his feet to the fire about anything. And I'll tell you that the first part of it is that the league has been down. Right. The league has been down. When Texas got bad, because it's been irrelevant for 12 years. That's why Oklahoma was able to win 6 in a row.
Right.
That's why they were able to do that. That's because Okie Light is Okie Light. They come up short all the time. He's beaten Oklahoma 3 freaking times in 19 years.
Oh, wow.
He's won 1 conference championship. He wins games, but he doesn't win. But you see how he schedules like a SEC schools that, and outside of the SEC conference, Citadels and, Central Michigan and crap like that. They're not playing anybody. So to me, they were a paper. I mean, the truth of it is that Baylor, as good as Aranda is as a defensive coach, and I think he is good.
Right.
What they weren't was they didn't have any offense, and they beat the crap out of them earlier that year. And then you go out there, they say they lost by 6 inches. Well, they lost by 6 inches and 6 turnovers.
Of course. Yeah. They threw that game away. Yeah, they did.
And so to me, it was just one of those deals where they choked when it came to CFP chances. Oklahoma let them off the hook. I mean, I don't know how popular this statement will be, but Riley freaking chucked that game because he knew that if he was there, that screws with his recruiting going to USC, and he was ready to get the hell out of there.
Right.
They ran the same play at least 5 times in a row towards the end there, down there when they lost it. And Caleb still almost won it. But I do feel like something's up there, and they've been having some issues where all these kids are complaining about Coach Gundy, his offensive coordinator, a tight ends coach. Right. They lost 5 of their top 6 receivers from this year.
Oh, brother.
Spencer Sanders leaves. I mean, it looks like he's going to have the starting job at Ole Miss. I mean, he looked good in the spring game anyway, and I think he's better than Jackson Dart.
Etienne is a monster. I watched video on him just specifically today.
6'7", 350 or something. I mean, good grief.
He's got 2 years. He's got 2 years. I mean, he got a year if he has a great year. BYU puts linemen in the league. We're going to probably have one taken in the first round this year, an offensive lineman, and that's what we do. That's one of the things we do to the NFL. And offensive guys come here because they want to promote. They want to play on Sundays. And Etienne, I guarantee you, not only will he be playing on Sundays, but he's going to be plowing the road quite a bit.
I'll tell you, man, it's crazy to me that even if that's what he felt, he got beat out of a starting job. I don't understand that. Why would you? He's that big, and if you told him that, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know yet that we know the full story about why.
And you won't unless, I mean, you can believe whatever comes out of Etienne's mouth, because you're not going to hear it from Gundy. He's going to continue saying what he's saying, because again, it's never anybody else but him.
Of course,
or it's never him or his staff. It's always the kids. They're up on 30. Yeah, and Outlaw College Football is right here. You know, he used to act like he was so about those kids. He's not. But I mean, they're pushing 30 guys that left through the transfer portal.
It's a ridiculous number. You can't survive doing that. The turnover, you have 3 months to put in an offense and get guys. In fact, all the live practices are done now, right? One of your shows in the future, Couz, needs to be on the windows now that you can do transfers.
Yeah.
Doesn't this seem really late to you guys? I realize they want to do it after your spring.
Lincoln Riley loves it.
It seems really odd timing. Like the window is either too late to do anything, or it's too early to really take advantage of, and nobody wants to move. So I don't know. It just feels weird.
I actually kind of like it. I think it's good timing, because it gives the guys a chance if they want to, if they're going to move.
Right.
Spring after spring practice is when they know they're going. If you see that you're not going to play,
right, of course,
you want to know it probably in spring ball,
right?
I think they got to get a handle on it a little bit, on like allowing too much of it to go on.
Yeah,
because I think
that
and even this, supposedly they're going to enforce this rule. I don't know that they are, though, because it doesn't look like they have. I mean, anyway, but I do feel like I'm good with them being able to leave when they need to. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, obviously, if you're in a bad situation, you're not going to get to play, fine. Right. Because And even Oklahoma, I mean, they needed to jettison some of these guys, man. Some of them weren't going to get to play, and they're going to have to, they got scholarships that better kids could come in and play, So I think that it's and it should come back to the medium, don't you think? I mean, at some point, all this, especially all the NIL money and stuff like that, that's not going to continue like that. You can't afford to pay these guys like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And not get anything in return.
I want to get back to the Etienne. I got a question here about Etienne. It's related to that from Larry Pilgrim. He says, didn't BYU hire Oklahoma State assistant coach?
Yeah, so I saw that note, Larry, and I want to shout out Larry. I've seen him across several shows, and and correct me if I'm wrong, Larry. You can say this in chat if I got this wrong, but he's a big supporter for Utah. And I really appreciate his fandom. So I just wanted to give him a little shout out for that. But I don't know. I'm going to have to check up on that for you. I'll look it up and see. I don't remember seeing a note about an assistant coach, but it's quite possible. I mean, we're shipping guys down to Baylor now from BYU. They're going to Baylor. You might as well call Baylor BYU South, because if they want to leave BYU, that's where they're headed.
Yeah. Talking college football, JJ Kitchen talking about the portal. He says it's good for coaches to see what deficiencies they have and grab guys in the portal so they can fill holes after spring practice.
Right. BYU's one of their, I think it was the offensive coach, in a chat today, and I asked him a question about it because it seemed crazy to me. He said he expected in this window to pick up 20 athletes. That number seems insane to me.
How
many
that?
kids do you? It was one of our assistant coaches. I could look up his name.
Wow.
But I asked him a question about it, and I'm like, am I taking this wrong? Am I reading this quote, your tweet incorrect? But he said 20 plus. And that seems insane to me. That's turning over what? A fifth of your team?
Basically.
It's crazy to me.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unreal.
I don't know. That's something I'm going to have to do some.
So if they're getting 20 guys, it means how many are they losing?
Well, that's just it. We've already lost 3, but they were all told, the coaches are at BYU. The coaches are pretty straight up with these guys. They're telling them directly to their face, and they've been told they're probably not going to. They're certainly not going to start. They're going to be second or third string. So they're giving them a chance, like was just being spoken about a second ago, giving them a chance to go out and find a better place. Right. And I think that's fair. I want the athletes to be successful too. I think everybody does.
Yeah. Outlaw College Football has a comment here. He says, Mike Gundy fake bravado has been evident since he rolled over for Chubba Hubba and let them take his freedom of speech and shed the OAN shirt. Mr. I'm a man, I'm 54 coward.
Oh, you're talking about, what's his name?
Gundy.
Colin Cowherd?
No, Mike Gundy. When Mike Gundy called him a coward.
Oh, coward. I'm sorry. I read that wrong. I apologize.
That's okay.
When Chuba and him got into all that, and that was during the COVID year, whenever he was wearing that shirt and like whatever, I think that there's a question about racism when it comes to the Gundys. I mean, I think that's a fair question too, by the way. But wearing that shirt was the least of the problems around there. I think that was where you kind of showed that little chink in his armor where everybody thinks he's such a great coach, and it's a lot of BS, right? Yeah, Renee, you're full of crap, bro. There ain't no way. There ain't no way.
All right, let's get to the elephant in the room here. Hank is chomping at the bit to talk about this. He's been on my case since the show started. BV is the worst coach in the conference, so we should talk.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For those of you who don't know, I did a video. It posted today. I ranked first off. Let's set the groundwork here. On 3 did a ranking of the Big 12 coaches like 2 weeks ago, something like that. And I don't have it directly in front of me, so I don't remember where everybody was at.
I'll get it.
But nonetheless, I thought it was pretty crappy rankings myself.
Okay.
Not all of them, but some of the guys I felt like they had in really weird spots. A couple of the things that I took note of was, one, they had Brent Venables, who's only coached 1 season of football in his life as a head coach. Right. 1.
Stop it, man. Come on.
1.
Go ahead.
They had him number 1?
No, they didn't have him number 1, but they had him at like, what, 9, 10, somewhere down there.
Oh.
I think that's about where he should be.
Right.
ahead of guys like
they were 6-7 last year, so.
Ahead of guys who have been coaching for 8 years.
Right. Well,
I mean, how can you prove you're a good coach when 1 year?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because he's done nothing but coach with Hall of Famers.
Right.
He's been a part of multiple national championship teams.
Right.
He recruits at an absolutely elite level, which is a very big part of being a head coach, a very big part of it. He's out recruiting everybody in the Big 12 except for Sark and Texas, which has a lot more money to dump off on people, and they still don't win with it, even with that recruiting. In fact, he out-recruited Clemson. He out-recruited Ohio State, like I told you in that message earlier. I mean, and as you come in something to think about. No, he hadn't been a head coach. He was the assistant head coach. His defenses are the biggest reason that Clemson won those 2 national championships and played for 2 more.
All right.
And they're sending guys in the top 15 of the draft year after year after year. That's why when you put a guy like Dana Holgerson above him and a guy like the dude at Cincinnati above him, bro, I didn't say he should have been in the top 5. I said he shouldn't have been in the bottom 5, and he damn sure shouldn't have been at the end.
I get it. But here's the keys to my here's the criteria to my rankings. And I think I mentioned this in the video, but fans like yourself and like I would do too, if I were listening to something like that, I'm going to say, wait a minute. You know, this is bullcrap, but I'm going to hear what I want to hear, not the whole thing. Okay.
Sure.
I said this has nothing to do with anything except what they've done as a head coach, not assistant coach, not high school coach, head football coach at college, at the college level, period. Okay. It has nothing to do with recruiting, because you can, as Steve Sarkisian has proven, you can recruit all day long and still not win more than 8-9 games a year.
But here's the thing about that. You realize they've had to turn over 80% of their team since Lincoln left and gutted the program. And their defense was so bad because of, he took 13 guys off of that depth chart from the defense that wasn't good. There was 13 guys gone. And so they finished in the 120 range, like 124 in total defense in the country, and still lost 5 of those games by 1 score and 4 of them by 3 points. One of them was to your boys.
Yeah. Big Dan T, $9.99 super chat. Thanks, brother. He says, you're correct. BV is so great. We beat them for the first time in the Big 12.
Listen, again, they lost by 3, and there was a little penalty at the end. There was little things that they needed to clean up. But if you're going out there and losing all these games and your defense is that bad, and it's not going to stay there. He was the top 10 defense 8 of his last 10 seasons at Clemson. The other 2 years
that's
they were
at Clemson, and he wasn't a head coach.
So let me because I was on the outside looking in, and you guys were in the middle of it last year.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say one thing. He was put in an unwinnable situation, guys. Lincoln Riley took the team with him to USC. He had nothing. He was playing with 3rd and 4th stringers. Yes, he recruited some in, but he had to install a new offense, a new defense. That team was remade. So at the end of the day, I would take what happened. I'm glad a lot of these teams beat Oklahoma. That might be the last time you beat them, though. I think they're just going to retool, and they're not going anywhere. They're not going to win the SEC, but they're going to compete in the SEC West.
I think they're going to compete in the SEC.
Yeah,
I think that they were top. If you look at what they never did in recruiting, was what they got most of their top 100 kids of this number 4 class in the country, the best they've ever had, were defensive players. They got the number 1 quarterback in the country. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys, here's the thing. I agree with everything you said. I think Brent Venables is going to do fine.
Right.
My rankings were not about what's going to happen in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years.
Right.
It was about what has happened in the past.
But if he's the bad coach, if he's the number 14 coach in the conference, how would he do that?
Based on his body of work, which I mentioned about 30 times in that video.
Okay. Well,
1 year
work does have to include recruiting and the fact, and you have to look at the season without just the record. if you're not looking at more than just the record, then you're not looking at anything. Because
what decides whether you go to a bowl game or not? How good you recruited?
Yeah, no. It's got its part of it, don't you think?
It's the wins and losses, bro. I don't care if you recruit freaking Bo Jackson. If you lose, you suck,
bro.
Period.
So you think that they were the same team that Lincoln left? That's the problem with the whole narrative, was that everybody thinks that Lincoln left that 11-2 team got left in Oklahoma.
No,
it didn't.
No,
I don't agree. I don't disagree with that. My rankings was strictly based on results. Period.
Right.
Nothing else.
Oh, come on, man. There's got to be more to it than just the wins and loss record. If you're not looking at what happened,
it was my rankings. I made it about what I wanted to make it about.
That's fair.
Okay, then you left yourself open to being argued with. Couz.
No, I know. No, I get it. I get your point. No, you're right. But I just, in my opinion, when I looked at those rankings, I'm thinking to myself,
Dana Holgorsen is not a better freaking coach than Brent Venables.
He may not be, but we don't know that yet because Brent has not had a chance to prove it yet.
I was writing them down here. I'll give you Kleiman. And I think Leipold is number 2. I can't believe you put Gundy number 2.
Body of work.
We just got done
I do think he's sliding down, but
body of work.
He was the 10th. Listen to me. He's the 10th winningest coach in the last decade.
I just explained that to you, didn't I?
There again, it's about wins, man.
No aim in the conference. Texas is trash for the last.
And that's why I had Steve Sarkisian at like 10, and he's been coaching for 8 years or whatever. So
yeah, no, and listen, I didn't have a problem with most of those guys. I'm talking about the last 5.
I get it. I knew there would. No, trust me, I knew there would be some conversation about that.
You were off there. The Kleiman, I think Leipold is right there with Kleiman, and I think that when you can go in and turn around Kansas when Kansas was that crappy, I mean, you got to give him some love there. And what did he's won 7 national championships, even if at Division III. Obviously, the dude knows how to coach, right? The dude can coach. I think that, but I would put BYU's coach right up there in the top 3. I think that he's one of the best right now coaches in the conference coming in. I don't have a problem with Malzahn. I think that he's a decent coach. I don't think he's great, but I think he's pretty good. Yeah, and I mean, listen, look, even the Outlaws agreeing with me. That's got to hurt a little bit. But I mean, but I'm telling you, the thing is that it could have been so much worse. They should have lost that many games. If it wasn't for Caleb Williams, they probably have that season the year before.
Right. Well, and then Rattler goes on to South Carolina, and they win 8 games, right?
Right. Yeah,
8 or 9
and
games.
I mean, but he had his moments where he looked bad though too, because that's what Spencer is. Spencer Rattler is mid. Yeah. He's got a great arm. His head though is whacked.
He's Johnny Manziel. That's what he reminds me of, Johnny Manziel.
I can't stand that kid.
Now I will say this: Outlaw just put something in the comments that I did not take into account that I had completely forgotten about, and that is their starting quarterback was out for 3 games.
It was 2 games, but yes.
So that might have made a difference.
Well, it wouldn't have been 49-0 against Texas.
Refresh my memory. What games was he out?
He got hurt in the TCU game on that freaking late hit that they put on him.
They probably wouldn't have won that one anyway. What was the other?
They were down. They were already down for sure. Right. But it was early in the second quarter. I mean, listen, I've seen comebacks in college football. We see them every year. So I mean, there's no. But
I get it.
And then maybe they don't win the Texas game either, but they don't get blown out 49-0. Yeah. They don't get blown out 49-0 because they didn't. They literally had no other quarterbacks that they could trust to put in.
I couldn't believe that game. By the way, that game shocked me. That was one of the most disgusting exhibitions I've seen in college football.
It was bad. And like when you stick a tight end in there to play quarterback because you can't move the football, then that tells you something. But desperate. But and even after that, you got to think about this. Once they knew they had no depth at that position, they didn't exactly let Dylan Gabriel just run around and make plays anymore. So and yet he put up 500 yards of his own against Texas Tech. They made that freaking field goal at the end of the game too, by the way. I've seen it over and over again. It split the freaking uprights. And they lost that. They had one freaking holding call against an opponent in the Big 12 the entire season. That's unheard of.
Kim Hurst says Bob Stoops is a better coach than anyone who's in the Big 12. He went 7-6. I agree. But had I been ranking them after his first season, I wouldn't have put him at number 1. But I will now because of his body of work. No, he won a national championship.
That's right.
Yeah, but he didn't want winning them at the end. You know, I mean, they were getting there. But again, look, the bottom line is that there's just that you can't tell me that he's coached with these guys and he don't know anything about coaching and he's recruiting at the level that they are. I mean, he's taken the place of Clemson as an elite recruiting team. They're not even in the SEC yet, and they're out recruiting a lot of the teams in the SEC. The only ones they're not is Bama and Georgia. Out recruiting Ohio State. How does that happen?
Look. If I was going to projection, I would not project Brent Venables at the bottom. I would put him at the top, in the top 3 probably. But it's not a projection. It's what have you done to date as a head coach in college, period.
If you were projecting him, if you think that he's going to go win because he's going to get in these players, and then you know that he's a good coach, so why would you put him last is my question. And I just
think rankings need to be result-based.
But the results are not just the wins and losses. And if you just look at the record only, you don't look at the games, you don't put any kind of context with any of these games. Okay. I mean, look, that's fine.
Well, it's all objective, man.
So he could go from 14 to 1 this year if they get to
I doubt he'll
get to the conference championship.
If he wins the national championship, he might.
I think, if he wins the Big 12 with his recruiting that he's got.
12. I mean, if they're going to lose to anyone in the Big 12 this year, and I'm saying this knowing full well that there was no way, there's no way that you should have probably. I shouldn't be picking them to do anything because they haven't done anything yet. And I agree with you that you still got to prove that you can be a head guy. Not everybody can.
Yeah. Right? What have you done for me lately? I think that's Couz's list. It's like, show me the money now.
Calm down, Big Dan. I'm just busting his chops a little bit. He would do the same to me.
That's why I brought him on, man. I knew it would be a heated debate.
Big Dan.
I love it, actually.
I enjoy it.
When you guys were talking, and I saw Outlaw's comment come up, my head almost exploded. I ain't gonna lie to
you. That is awesome.
He was in agreement with me.
No, he was agreeing with you, and then Nathan kind of agreed with you, but in a nicer way.
I'm trying to play the middle here. I see it both ways. I can't really speak to Big 12 yet because I'm still on the outside looking in.
Nathan's the mediator here.
I'm trying to be.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be.
I just came in here to bust your chops a little bit. On my show, I've been busting.
I knew it would cause some. I knew it would ruffle some feathers.
And again, I would the second 5. I fully expected him to be there, even right around 10. I figured that's where you would probably land him. When it kept going, I'm like, wait, still? And then. When you got to those last few, and I was like, oh no. So I was like, wow, man. Okay. Well,
I mean, I've even done, if you look back early on in my channel, I actually did a video.
I will make my own list, Big Dan. I will.
About how I think Brent Venables could be the next Nick Saban. I did that one with Outlaw several months ago. So
and that was something that we agreed on then too when we did those shows together, was that Venables knows how to put a defense together that can win a championship. And believe me, Dabo knows how much he misses him right now.
They've had no defense, obviously, since he left last year. That was obvious.
They are recruiting it pretty well again, but he's still his son's there too. Yeah, that's the other thing is that Venables' son is there. But again, I still feel like there's something that you've got to do. You've got to make that change. And there were some things that he, for sure, and I'll tell you this all day long, there were some adjustments that he didn't make in games that you need to see him do that. And the guy that goes on the show with me, Coach, all the time, he talks about that. He's like, look, there's a learning curve to it. No doubt.
Oh, of course.
There's a learning curve even if you've been in football as long as he has, there's a learning curve. Now, do you expect him to make those adjustments? Yes, you do. He still can make that phone call to Dabo Swinney. Bob Stoops right down the road. I mean, believe me, he's still right there hovering almost over that program still, which I don't know that that's a great thing.
Let's flip it here, Couz. What happens with Sarkisian? He's a 3-year. This year's his 3rd year. Does he get run if they don't win the Big 12?
Sark?
Yep.
If they don't win the Big 12?
Yep.
I think it depends. I mean, if they win 9 games and don't win it, probably not. I don't know. It's Texas, though, man. Texas has got high expectations. So
they do.
Here's what I would and I would tell you that. I don't
know.
I think that if he doesn't win at least 9 games, he's probably out of there.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to expect him to necessarily win the Big 12, but I think that they should. The dude's never won 10. I think he's 7-win Sark, man. He's never shown that he's that good of a coach.
He's a top 5 all-time coordinator in college football.
Sure.
Top 5 all-time. He
don't touch him if he's running out of the tunnel. By God, he'll fight you.
Oh boy, that thing was wild, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that video, Nathan?
I called him out. I actually posted
I
posted a thing that got retweeted like 70, or it was looked at 75,000 times, retweeted in the hundreds.
Oh, Hansy.
Yeah. Oh, Hansy basically said, "I love you, Sark, but man, you can't be doing that. The guy's got a job to do. You need to just do your job, win a game."
Yeah, he went over. I almost did a video on it, but I didn't for whatever reason.
It's really bad. Not a good look.
I laughed about. I definitely trolled him about it, but I'm supposed to do that as an Oklahoma guy.
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
And for all, if you watch my show enough, you'll know I've had a lot of respect for Mike Gundy. But I have started losing that over time now.
Yeah.
And I even made a comment when I did my rankings. He says a lot of outlandish things lately, but
I don't know where he's coming from. And I think that he's just gotten that, there was that thought pattern, and I think it's still kind of there with Mike. And here's the problem that I think, and we were just talking about this on my show. And Hank had said this earlier, they have to deal, they're not on the same level as Oklahoma, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, kind of, except for this isn't 20 years ago. This isn't 30 years ago where there was a clear gap. They have the resources at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
T. Boone Pickens left them in a great position with his endowment. They have some of the best, not just in the Big 12, they have some of the best facilities in the country, period. Right? They could recruit. It's easy to use that as a crutch, though, that we have to deal with recruiting against a blue blood,
right?
And it also looks really good on him that he was able to identify for a good while the 3 stars that are just as good as the 4s. You know what I mean? Those dudes, and he did do that. Now it's an excuse to not win whenever when it gets hard. And because he's only won 3 times against Oklahoma, and he's only won 1 conference championship, and he didn't have a conference championship game, and all these things pile up, and so he's gotten very, very defensive. And again, like I said, and this is something the coach said on our show. He said, "Look, when that many guys leave your program, and you're blaming it all on them, but if it's all on the players, then it's all on you, because." Right. Something's going on in your culture now that it's you. If you're turning all these kids into that, then something's going on in your culture."
Etienne leaving doesn't happen 2 years ago. Something else is going on in the background.
Spencer Sanders, he was calling him the best quarterback in OSU history before the start of the season last year, and he's gone. Why?
Something's toxic there right now. Maybe he's been there too long, guys.
And that happens.
What has he been there 20 years? It's
Yeah,
close, isn't it?
This is your 20, yes.
2005?
Yeah, that's a long time.
4, 5, somewhere in there.
That's a long time in one place in college,
Sure.
especially in college athletics. You have politics, you have the endowments, you have recruiting.
Right.
That's a long time.
I mean, I love the sound bites. I mean, it's entertaining, but
some of it was, but it's kind of gotten old now.
Well, and it's when if you're the AD or the president, it's almost
the
like
sound bites that you liked was him taking up for his players, not ripping them.
He's at a point where he feels untouchable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
when he was taking up for his players, we loved it. I'm a man, I'm 40.
Right.
Come at me. Now it's don't come at me, go with him. I'm a man, I'm 54. Bro, what are you doing?
And he's kicking reporters out for asking simple, logical questions.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, when you fell apart the way they did at the end of the season, and you don't have an explanation for it. And everybody could see that something's going on. Yeah. And not a week later, that portal filled up with Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because
when it opened up,
how dare you?
They lost like 10 guys the first day, something like that. That first day in winter when they opened that portal up. It was shocking to see what was happening to Oklahoma State.
They lost. We found a team finally lost more than West Virginia did for once. Outlaw says, what I still can't understand about some Sooners is how they can call Okie Pokey State a fear when they say they root for them. That's not a fierce rivalry.
Okie Light, man.
I never root for Auburn.
Never. Yeah, I get that. No, I'm not that guy. And it's not really a rivalry either. I agree with that part too, because that's not a rivalry when you win. It's 91-19.
Yeah, I agree with you on that as well. That's not. I mean, that's like, West Virginia's playing Penn State for the first time in decades, and that used to be a quote-unquote rivalry. My God, they dominated us. I think we've won 9 times out of 57 or something. That's not a rivalry.
It's the same with Texas and Texas A&M. I mean, they're pretty close. And then with A&M and Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma's 19-8 against A&M or something like that.
It's like Marshall calling West Virginia a rivalry. We're 12-0 against them.
Right. Yeah, that's not silly. Hey, BYU's 4-1 against Texas and 2-0 against Oklahoma.
I was fixing to say, BYU doesn't lose to these guys, man. And I went to a game in Provo.
Nice.
Yeah, I went and watched them play Texas. I was living in Vegas at the time, and one of my bosses was a Texas fan.
I saw that game. Yep.
Yeah, so they that was when that was an amazing
Taysom Hill
of Taysom
Hill owns Texas.
I very much enjoyed that trip, I got to tell you.
I bet as an OU fan, I guarantee you that was probably one of your favorite days to watch him.
Oh yeah, and I got to give him a lot of hard time for a long ways back to Vegas.
If he hadn't gotten hurt his freshman year, or I think it was freshman,
Taysom was really good, man.
He would have won the Heisman. I think by junior he would have won. He was so athletic, but he had injuries, which is amazing to see him in the NFL now, right? I mean, he's Mr. Versatile, his switchblade out there, and
he's very good. He's still very good. I think that was one of my. But it was a fun place to go watch. I mean, great stadium, great. I mean, it's so beautiful in that area,
right? Too. Yeah,
but it was. I mean, it was rowdy in there, and I mean, Texas fell apart immediately. I mean, Taysom took them apart immediately.
You play us at night. I'll give you guys a secret. I don't know if you figured this out already or not. And Oklahoma, this might be the only time we get them at home ever. But you play BYU after you play BYU in Provo after 7:30, 9:30 Eastern. Just get back on the bus because they're winning.
That's what's happening this year, isn't it?
What's that?
Isn't that probably how it's going to be?
I hope so. It'll be the depths of November. It'll be snow. It'll be cold. It'll be elevation, and we can't wait.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying I never would pick them to go undefeated. I'm having a hard time finding losses, and I can't say they're going to lose to Texas, even though they may.
Right.
But that was the one that I come across, and I have a hard time seeing them winning it. I really do.
It's the end of the season. Everybody's tired. Yeah, it'll all just depend kind of what the conditions are and everything. But I really encourage everybody, if you're just learning about BYU, that OU game in November will be fantastic.
What's going to happen with Utah? What's going to happen with Utah? Are they coming?
No.
Yeah, no? I mean, Couz, they do not want to be perceived as following BYU. Anywhere.
I don't think they want to be anywhere around you guys because
they don't want any part of it.
They were in the same conference with you, right?
No, people don't understand. I Googled the Holy War. Go online.
It was like 9 out of 10 when y'all were in the WAC in Mountain West, right?
Oh, we have since Lavelle Edwards took over in 72, we're 30-25. But all time, Utah has us by like 30 games because before Lavelle Edwards came in, Utah owned us. It was like 40-2 or something.
Okay.
But and then Kyle Whittingham came in, and I think he's won 15 out of 20 or something like that.
Kyle's a great coach, man.
Kyle is amazing.
Coach. I think he's the most underrated coach in the country.
I would love to see Utah. Bob Thompson. You guys know who Bob Thompson is?
Yes. Yeah.
Great Fox executive. I have really spent a lot of time with him chatting. We actually even anyways, but
he's a good guy. He knows his stuff.
He said the number one thing that brings eyeballs is rivalries.
Yep.
Number one.
It's not about markets.
And if Utah came to the Big 12 guys, it would be a glorious moment. Now, BYU fans don't want them because we want to out-recruit them. We want to beat them, kind of like you guys do with your rivals, right?
Sure.
Pitt and Texas. You don't want to have any part of that. But as far as rivalries go, fellas, you will never see anything more passionate than that
I
game.
watch it every time they play it. I've watched that game every time they play it. I've never seen it in person. I'd love to see that. That'd be fun.
Oh my gosh, there's been some ugly ones, but it would be great to have that at the end of the year. The Big 12 would benefit. I think they'd be a great contributor.
I don't understand why Utah wouldn't want that too. I mean, you're not. Then the whole thing about the AAU stuff, that's so dumb.
No, it's about the bragging rights. They were promoted first. They don't have a national championship. If you want to stack up accolades, I did this once on my on one of my tweets. I put them up side by side. BYU has way more individual. I think the only thing they have us on is draft picks.
Right.
We're like 12 behind on draft picks, but we got obviously Outland trophies. We got Doak Walker. We obviously have the Heisman, a national championship. We have marquee wins. Their battle, they talk about they beat Alabama. Right, and that was, I think, in the Sugar Bowl. I don't take anything away from
Kyle, man. That's Kyle Whittingham did that.
But BYU, what
did they do before that?
BYU beat Miami when they were the defending national champions on September 3rd in 1990, and that game. Talk about a tent pole. I would put that up against any game that's ever been played in college football.
Ty Detmer was unbelievable when he was.
Have you ever watched that game in replay? It's actually online, BYU TV. I'm happy to supply the link for that, and you can watch the entire game.
I remember him. I remember his Heisman season. And
in '91.
Yeah, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was just.
Ty was unbelievable. I in fact, whenever I went into the military, I was stationed in New Jersey, and so we went and watched Philly a lot he became the starter there, and he was still good. I met him. I actually met Ty Detmer at a mall one day. I was
Did
surprised
you really
to see him? It was so weird. Yeah, just to watch.
He's one of the nicest guys. He looks like a regular Joe. You wouldn't even know he's a football player.
Yeah, and only I probably did because nobody else was around him really, and he was the quarterback of the Eagles. But you would run into the Eagles around there a lot for whatever reason. But
yeah, he was in the league for a while. He was getting checks.
Very, very good. And I mean, he was just so good.
Couz, I would ask your listeners, anybody that's a Utah fan, or for that matter in the Pac-12, any questions about Utah? What do you guys think? Do you want Utah in? They went from very respected in August of last year, since realignment started in the last 9 months. Their reputation has been shredded, and it's all been self-imposed. That
and Monty doesn't help him. I think Monty needs to shut up.
Well, yeah,
because he's the one who pushes all that AAU stuff.
I don't want to get into a Twitter thing.
Salt of the Earth said, academics, baby.
Well, that's what all
Pac-12 you can learn us.
Because every Pac-12 school is smarter than every Big 12 school, right?
That's right.
Okay, so Utah's rated like 104th, and BYU's like 83rd. So don't talk to me about academics.
Well, and those rankings are based on specific criteria.
Of course they are. Every number can be manipulated.
I mean, West Virginia doesn't even, because of some of our state laws, we can't even do some of the things that require us to get on those lists.
Of course. Right. Yeah,
it's a land grant school. They need people to go to school for this, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you have like you look at, and as much as I trash on Okie Light, they have an amazing school. I mean, in Texas. I mean, I hate Texas. You think they're not in the AAU because they're not good enough?
Right. That has nothing to do with it.
The Texas State University Medical Program, they don't give a crap about AAU at all. They're that good.
AAU is an affiliation, right? It's like a club. It's like joining the Rotary. You have to qualify, you pay a fee, and you're in. And is it something that everybody can put on a placard like a diploma? Absolutely.
Sure. And it's worth some money too. It's worth a lot of money apparently, as far as the research is concerned.
But we're talking about football here, guys.
Exactly. They're not as long as you pay your dues, you don't lose it. you can still go hang out with the guys at Stanford. They'll let you.
That's right.
That's the whole thing I've never understood. And that continued thought, and Monty spreads a lot of it. It's that, nope, they're really worried about that, about the academics are just so bad out there in the Big 12, that truck stop conference and all.
Yeah.
Are you guys kidding me? Oklahoma's medical school is insane good. You know what I mean?
So where Monty's show is at is in West Valley City, which is in Salt Lake. Okay. They're right close to the U. They're right close to the Jazz offices, and they know people. Okay.
Right.
I don't normally talk about other shows very much, but he is informed. He is informed, but he also comes from Pac-12 land. He comes from California. So he has a bias just like you and I.
Yeah.
And so I don't demean anything that their show says. I just think that they have a big megaphone and it carries a big message, which is kind of why, Couz and I started talking.
Funny. His show's funny. And I mean, they have a good show. It's not that. It's that. But I think when you push that narrative, instead of saying, look, I don't know why you guys are talking about that, because this is not, if this all goes down the way this is going down,
right,
and it is going down that way there's no way that the Pac-12 lives through this. They don't. So you're really going to go to the Mountain West?
I don't.
Be a part of a Pac-12 that is no longer Power 5? I mean,
I think this is in their safe behind Kyle Whittingham's desk, and it's covered up with a jersey. I guarantee you, he's got a safe, and in that safe there's a piece of paper, and that piece of paper says, now this is obviously my joking, but it's in my opinion. They're hoping that the other schools join the Big 12, Washington, Oregon go to the Big 10, and because they're by themselves, I guarantee you they are hoping the Big 10 picks them up. That's
not going to happen. They don't want nothing to do with them.
It's insane. It's an insane plan, but that's what they're trying to do. They don't want to be in the Mountain West 2.0. They definitely don't want to be playing UNLV or back to playing Utah State. Are you kidding me? They don't play Utah State.
Still be playing most of. I mean, the truth
they're
is,
hoping
you're
to get picked up.
Be playing against the teams that you would have been in the Pac-12 if you go to the Big 12. I don't get it.
That's what they're hoping for.
What I like about this comment says academics are for nerds. It's from an Ohio State.
Hilarious. Yes.
He's in the freaking Big 10.
When I saw that, I left. I said Jared's name underneath.
Thank you, Jared.
That was funny.
Jared,
someone who actually gets it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That was awesome.
And I like this comment. Didge, he says, can't wait for Utah to drop off with recruiting when games are streaming only.
Right.
No one is watching. BYU will win a lot of their recruits in the next 5 years.
I think anyway.
Yeah, I put a tweet out about that. I think the tables have turned. The day it was announced last year that BYU was joining the Big 12, the messaging changed, and because of the faith, the church, and the organization that's embedded in the Mountain West area already, and we recruit nationwide, like Etienne from Oklahoma State. We can get people from Florida and New York and Washington. I do believe in 5 years, unless something seriously goes wrong at BYU, from an organization standpoint, that is going to happen just naturally. Utah, once Kyle Whittingham
I think
retires,
you're a problem. I think that program is a problem in the Big 12 because it is a national brand. I mean, on a different level than, I consider BYU in the neighborhood of Notre Dame, when it comes to that kind of stuff,
For reach, it's a certitude. Yeah, for reach, there's no doubt.
All right, you guys, we've been on it for me and Nathan been out for an hour and a half. This has been a freaking blast.
I've been on for a while too. Yeah,
I could do this every day, Couz. What are you talking about? This is awesome.
And even though Jason had to come on here and bust my balls, it's still been really fun.
What would I be if I didn't, man? Come on now. What kind of friend would I be?
Hey, it's all good. I knew when I done that, I thought, man, Oklahoma fans are going to hate my guts.
I'm surprised you didn't get more of it
because I actually like Brent Venables.
And I didn't do it on Twitter. I did it in your DMs, so I didn't bust your chops on Twitter, and I could have.
I appreciate that. No, like I said, when you do those videos, somebody's mad at you. And look, I don't even like Dana Holgorsen. But I look at that and I'm going, Dana Holgorsen, if you look at his body of work,
doesn't take any kind of responsibility. And look at what was going on there last year.
What's that now?
Fighting on the sidelines.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for the super chat, Jared, man. You're the best, man. $20 super chat.
Ohio State. Rich
great
guys.
comment, man. Great
Rich
comment.
guys at Ohio State.
Appreciate you.
That's fantastic. What's really cool is you got an Ohio State guy in here, Couz, your show, and he's Big Ten. We're talking PAC-12, and
that's right, man.
I mean, your show's fantastic for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it because
all their salt. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but okay.
Hall of Fame is 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means.
I wish I was.
I
wish I was.
I don't know if Larry Coker disappeared, but I wanted to do a follow up. I looked and I didn't see an assistant coach come from Oklahoma State. So if he came, it wasn't really,
I think he's a GA. Is what somebody was saying.
Oh,
somebody was saying he's a GA. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because I couldn't find it. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Ohio State Junior College, Cincy coming with that Willy Wonka Golden Power 5 ticket.
Right.
Cincy is one that I don't know if you were wrapping up or not, but I got asked this question. I hope you guys know. Luke Fickell leaves, right? And he built Cincy into what it is, and they're in the show now. Can they recruit well enough in that really heart of steel area of the country enough to compete in 5 years? Or are they going to bleed recruits like Utah State loses them every year because they're like a prep school now for BYU to get guys come in second and third year?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If Luke Fickell were still there, I will tell you they could compete with anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
With him being gone, man, I just don't. I mean, Scott Satterfield, that hire is. I mean, that's baffling to me.
I thought it was too, man. I was like, why him? Why him?
I don't know anything about him.
They went from Kelly to Fickell to Satterfield.
He had 2 losing seasons in 4 years at Louisville.
So why they hire him?
I don't know. I mean, he was great at Appalachian State, but it was Appalachian State. No offense to Appalachian State. They're a great G5 program.
They're coming, boy. App State's coming.
Yeah, they are. But I mean, and they're Mountaineers. I got to love them.
Yeah.
But I mean, at Louisville, he went 8-5 his first year, had 2 losing seasons in a row. Then he went 7-5. And then he gets the Cincinnati job.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't know what
that was
who
really
did he coach with before that. Before he became a head coach, who did he get? Who was he coaching with?
Honestly, I don't know.
Because I'm not seeing it. It's almost like Billy. I know everybody loves G5 Billy there in Florida. I don't get it with him either. I mean,
there again, he's only been there a year. I think we need to give him. These guys need more time.
I give you that, and it's hard. That's a tough place to deal with whenever you come in and take over a mess. It is.
Well, but Florida is a blue blood, right? I mean, you got to count them at the top. They should be able to recruit and beat anybody. There's no reason they shouldn't be competing every year.
Guys, I hate to say this. Watch out for UCF, man.
I think they're going to be good.
The other school that I think is going to be come in and like, they've got a huge fan base, man.
With their big fan base, they're in Florida, right? And now they are getting Power 5 money that they weren't getting before.
Their biggest challenge, I mean, they have 87,000 students or something. It's ridiculous. It's like a small city, like urban, talking LA size facilities. But my concern is teams out of Florida generally do not travel well going west. That just, if you look over history,
I think they're going to struggle the first year. But they recruit really well, man.
At home, they're going to be fantastic, but I really question how well they're going to travel. That would be my only.
West Virginia has it. I'll be the first to tell you. West Virginia does not win very much on the road in the Big 12.
See,
just at Texas.
So tell me how that works, because BYU has traveled for centuries. We go everywhere to play people.
I mean, I'm not. It's kind of a built-in excuse. I get it, but it's. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
I'm just trying to understand.
They've been a bad road team, at least since Neil Brown's been there. Anyway, I don't know why.
Is that conditioning? Is it training? Is it?
Don't know.
Preparation?
I don't know. But Neil Brown doesn't.
I'll tell you what, though, they were really good a couple of years there. I mean, they barely lost to Oklahoma twice in a row. That like when Will Greer was there, they were. That's actually Dana's teams too.
Yeah, that's why I say Dana's not a great coach, but he's not a bad coach. He's an okay coach.
Right.
He's a great offensive mind. I mean, he's a genius.
Yeah, but again, that's one of those. That's the Lincoln Riley deal. That if you can't put a defense together, you're not winning anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not nowadays. No, certainly not.
The 2 years West Virginia had a defense, we won double-digit games.
Yep. Yep. That's why I think Venables is going to be good. I think that's the secret sauce. Defense wins championships. Absolutely. And I think that at college, you can fashion all the offense you want, but you get one team that really can shut down people like Alabama, like Georgia. That's the reason they didn't even
fall off on offense. I mean, they were still top 15 in the country on offense.
Well, good defense is good offense.
Sure, but they didn't have that last year. But they were
right.
I mean, they're going to have that too.
I think Oklahoma is a sleeping giant again. I really do. West Virginia, I think they could be good because of the area they're in.
I don't think.
I think they should be able to recruit,
Virginia, except for that coach, man. I think that. I mean, like I said, I've been to Mountaineer Stadium. That's a great place to go watch football.
That's one of the ones I want to actually get to. Not every stadium I want to hit.
It gets rowdy over there. It gets rowdy in there.
I've watched the Pitt game there a few times, and that game looks crazy.
Yeah,
the Pitt challenge.
I was, and the thing is, it's not as crazy as it used to be because fans are not showing up now because they're tired of losing.
That comes with wins, though. That can.
But it's crazy. In basketball, they sold out almost every game.
Huggy Bear, he don't lose.
Yeah, Huggins is good.
Well, I mean, we were losing. We were in a 5-game losing streak and still putting 12,000 people in a 14,000 seat Coliseum.
That's in the best conference in the country.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is like the ACC 10, 15 years ago that it was freaking murderer's row every day.
BYU is going to struggle with basketball. Well, can we just talk about basketball one time and then never talk about it again with BYU on it? Because I think
not good anymore. Yeah,
we may be
the Jimmer years.
No, it's because we can't get the recruiting that you guys can get. Just to be perfectly honest, we have to get lucky.
And it's only going to get better too.
Well, I'm really frightened, actually. If they win 10 games next year, I will be kind of shocked.
But Utah fell off the map there too, though, didn't they? I mean, when
I don't know why
Utah
struggled.
Unbelievable. I mean, Rick was such a good coach.
Well, Majerus
yes,
was it, right? It was Rick Majerus.
Absolutely. I remember covering him whenever I was covering Tech. I covered him for newspapers. So I covered Tech when Coach Knight was there, and that was right as Majerus was done.
Yeah, that's right.
Finishing off.
Yeah.
And his teams were so good, though. I mean, you knew that you were going to get some kind of game from those guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I don't know I can't explain Utah, but I can explain BYU. And we don't have to talk about that today, but I'm being self-effacing here, right? I think BYU, we have a huge upside for football, but
I saw Jimmer in person though too, man. That was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, he was a phenom, though. He was a rarity, right? He actually is started in NIL. I don't know if it's official yet, but he's trying to get $50 million of funding for NIL, and if BYU can get NIL players in, we'll be okay. But it's the NIL.
I think you guys are going to be okay anyway. I think you're going to get that money.
Huggy Bear figured it out.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
Huggy Bear's been figuring it out for a long time.
We just landed Kerr Kriisa from Arizona and Jesse Edwards from Syracuse.
I know. When we wanted him so bad, I wanted Kriisa. Do you know what his NIL payout was, though? It had to be high six figures.
The numbers I'm hearing are between 400 to 600.
Yeah, see,
and the numbers I'm hearing on, I actually heard Jesse Edwards.
Basketball.
I don't know if I believe this or not, but I've heard up to 800,000 for Jesse Edwards. But see, here's the thing with foreign players:
so much
they can't make NIL in the United States.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It has to be overseas.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
There's a lot of loopholes that you have to go through to get foreign players NIL money. And a lot of colleges won't, like Syracuse didn't even basically deal. They almost didn't even try to get him NIL money, which is one of the reasons he left, I think.
Well, we're gonna show out. We'll show up. You guys come to Provo. Marriott Center holds 17,000. It's one of the loudest stadiums in the country at pro or college. The show will be one of the best shows you ever see. But as Jason was saying, the murderer's row of the schedule is just. I mean, brutal. Come on.
And they get Arizona and freaking Gonzaga. It's going to be even worse.
I know it's going to be. Except we're looking forward to it. BYU fans are looking forward to it.
Let me tell you what the travel's going to be like for the basketball team.
Yeah.
You mean
for BYU's basketball team, because West Virginia has to do it now.
That's right. You got to go the other way. Sure.
Yeah, we have to travel. Here's what Bob Huggins has got some set up with the conference, right? They do road games in twos.
Okay.
So that they can only make
Kansas
one.
State, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma.
Right.
Okay.
Like they'll go to, and they always do they typically, I don't say always, typically he likes to do his first 2 road games in the first 2 games of the season because the students are out for that time period.
That's right.
Because here's what happens.
Right.
If they play a big Monday game at 9 p.m. on the road, they don't get back to Morgantown until 5:30, 6 a.m. and the following day, and then have class at 8.
Yeah, that's why don't they do Saturday Monday?
And they do it multiple times a year.
Why aren't they playing Saturday Mondays?
They do. They play Saturday, Monday, but then they still have to get back to Morgantown for class Tuesday morning.
Right, of course. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's why we want Gonzaga so bad. That's why we want Arizona, right? We want these schools because that gives us a little less travel as well. You know, West Virginia is not the only one.
That's what I'm saying. You guys will have to do it. UCF will have to do it.
Yeah, it's going to
Cincinnati will to a degree.
Tough. That's why Kansas has dominated for decades, by the way, guys. Let's just be real. They've dominated because everybody comes to them. They're the center of the country. They're the same distance to every place they go, it seems. And they've turned that stadium that they got, is it Rupp, right? Rupp Arena? Place is a horrible place to play basketball.
You're talking about, you said Kansas or Kentucky?
Kansas. Oh, Kentucky is Rupp.
The Fog.
Yeah,
Fog Allen Fieldhouse.
Fog Allen. Okay.
Have you ever been?
That's on my bucket list.
No, I haven't. I haven't been there.
When they do rock chalk at that place, it is unbelievable. But that place is haunted. I'm sure of it.
I've heard that.
I'm sure of it. Yeah, it's insanity.
Haunted. That's a road trip I want to make.
I'm telling you, it's very much worth it. You should. That's one of the bucket trip ones that you should definitely do.
Okay.
I've been to Cameron. I've never been to Rupp, but I've been to Cameron. I've been to obviously I went and saw North Carolina that week. And then I see Madison Square Garden. So that was kind of big for me, but none of them were like Fog.
Yeah, Fog Allen
just different, man. It's just different.
They say that Cameron and Fog are the 2 hardest places to play in college basketball.
And I'll give you that because it was nutty in Cameron. It's smaller, though. It's so small, and it's right on top of you is what it is. But it's cavernous and huge in the Fog. And then they start doing that rock chalk stuff, and it's kooky, man. It weirds people out. The teams will come in. That's why they win 60 or 70 in a row before they'll lose one, because it freaks them out. It freaks people out. It's just that mystique.
What's happened with North Carolina Duke? Not to interrupt you, but I'm just curious. What has gone on over there? I mean, the ACC used to be murderers row.
Yeah, new coaches.
Is it because of retirements? Everybody left, and
I don't think they're going anywhere necessarily. And I mean, the thing is that they're so long. I was laughing about that too, dude. It's so long of them doing what they did, but they still have 13 years on that deal, and ESPN's not going to give up their deal. I still feel like that, and I'm been meaning to ask you about this, Couz, what you think. I feel like if you're smart in your ESPN, you give enough money to FSU, Miami, Carolina, and Clemson, to stay competitive, because you get it on the cheap.
Yes,
you know, absolutely. You have, and that is you're going to put 1 or 2 teams in the playoff every year. Why would you want to torpedo your own conference? And
I don't understand.
I just don't see
it doesn't make any sense to me.
I saw an article written by, he's actually a West Virginia fan, but he's a blogger, writes some really good stuff, and he really follows conference realignment, and he seems to be well connected. Because I think he's well to do, for lack of a better term, but at least that's me reading the tea leaves. But he wrote an article recently that talked about how, similar to what you're talking about, Jason, how ESPN controls the TV rights for the SEC.
That's right.
And the ACC.
Right.
And
they lose nothing.
Yeah.
If FSU and Clemson go to the SEC.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, they could make money potentially because of the rivalry games, because of the games it brings.
Though, if you let them fall apart, though, and they're to where they have to move somewhere, What makes you think that they wouldn't go to the big? I mean, FSU's never wanted to be a part of the SEC.
Yeah, they could have joined years ago if they
years
wanted
ago.
Yeah.
They wanted nothing to do with it. What makes you think they don't go to the Big Ten just to piss you off? And you lose Florida now. You have the entire state right now if you're ESPN, the entire state. And you're going to, I mean, to me, it's not worth, I would give them the money. You're going to make the money with all the money that you own all of college football except the Big Ten. If your job is to do anything, it's to keep the Big Ten out of Florida.
Good point.
I think the ACC is dead man walking. I mean, let's all just say it out in the open.
But when?
I think it's the next one. I think it's 21, 20, 30, 31. And it's because, 8 of them get together, 4 say, and I don't know how they're going to do this with collusion and all that other fun legal stuff, but 4 are going to go, we're going here, Big Ten, 2 are going to go SEC, and then 2 are going to go Big 12, and the game's going to be up, and ESPN's going to win anyway. The only way ESPN doesn't win is if they lose schools to the Big Ten.
I'm telling you, they would lose schools to the Big Ten, though.
I've
heard Miami talk about the Big Ten. I've heard Florida State talk about the Big Ten. Right. And they never wanted anything to do with the SEC. I'm telling you now, I don't think that does not help ESPN. And if you have them on the cheap, and they do.
Very much.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, you're going to just torpedo your own conference. It doesn't even make sense.
I don't think they can compete with Fox money.
Think about this. You're going to put at least 1 or 2. You're going to put, yes, they can. They own the rest of it. I don't know. They're paying basically the same in the SEC as the Big Ten. The breakdown's a little different. It by the end of it washes itself out, man. It's not very much different. It's not.
Yeah, maybe.
Not according to the numbers that I'm looking at.
North Carolina, Duke, I think are going to the Big Ten. I'm going to say
okay, that I see.
Yeah.
The only one I really see that would go to the SEC would be Clemson.
For sure. Clemson
it's the only one that I really see. And I don't think that you want to lose those guys if you're ESPN, do you?
I don't. Like you said, they can't buy everything. Tell the Pac-10 that ESPN's got money.
Yeah, well, they don't want to. They're just not blowing it right now.
I don't think anybody.
Dead product.
Did you guys see $8 billion a year for the NBA? Yeah. Their contract's going to be something like $78 billion, something like that.
They have
that money is ridiculous. That's insane.
They know that Oregon and Washington are on their way to the Big Ten for sure.
Have to, yeah.
And I'm telling you, Stanford and Cal on their way to the Big Ten. They got a foot out the door. They never get a deal. They will not get a deal. That's any good.
I think people are underestimating this WWE UFC merger thing.
I think so.
That was big news.
Hey, listen, when you brought that up, I was like, wow.
Because think about it, man. ESPN, UFC has actually surpassed WWE in revenue. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't until recently.
And that's crazy because UFC is not even that old. It's younger than me.
Yeah, man. I remember when it was first out and you had to go buy it on a video to watch it later. You know what I mean?
And you get those two and WWE, people can make fun of it all they want to. It is a freaking money machine, man.
It is. They're cashing checks.
And people that are fans of that, I used to be one of those. I've kind of lost interest in it. But, man, I used to be all in, man. I never missed a Raw.
When my kids were little, we loved it again.
Oh, man, one of your shows needs to be WCW, WWF, 1990s wrestling.
Yes.
A whole show. Let's talk that.
Oh, I could do it, man.
I could do that forever. When they blew up, when
I still sit and watch YouTube videos of old matches, man.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
But that is a money-making machine, and if you get those two forces joined now, which they are, tell me ESPN doesn't want that.
That new CEO was talking about that. He was like, he said the PAC was toast, basically, when he was talking to Marshawn and the other guy, Andrew Marshawn, and who's the other dude that he's with?
John Aran.
John Oran.
I mean, he was saying the same thing. He was like, listen, I don't hate the Pac-12, but I'm telling you, I don't see it happening. There's just no room left.
There's no money. They have no time slots to put
There's not exactly. I mean, and look, if you can put it on Ion, but nobody's still going to watch it because there's literally everybody else is playing. So what are you going to do? Playing at nighttime on Ion, it's going to be the same thing as watching MASH reruns on Ion. Nobody's going to do it.
Did you guys see John Kurtz's thing he opened with the the
Not like Kurtz,
Pac-12 on CW.
Yeah.
There was the NIL that Coug Connect for BYU. They paid for on I-15, point of the mountain, and you have 100,000 cars that go past it every day, and it said Pac-12 to the CW, or can't wait for CW and Pac-12 football, and it had the U on it. And it was paid for by BYU NIL.
That is the greatest freaking trolling ever.
Coug Connect. Look it up. I can post it. I'll put it on. I'll retweet it in my.
Do that. I'm gonna come find you. What's your what are you on Twitter?
I need to just change my name here. Do you have a second, Couz? Could I change my name here? How do I do that?
I think you have to go out and come back in.
Display name. Let me change it. Just a second.
Maybe you can do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's gonna let me.
All right, Hank. What deal are you referring to? I missed your first comment.
Awesome. There we go. Now you can post my name and you'll see it.
Okay, let me.
If you redisplay our names, it should pop up. If not, I'll say. There you go.
Yeah, at Big 12 Mafia. There you go.
Yeah.
Big 12 Mafia.
Yeah, hit me up and I'll repost it. But it's one of the best trolling jobs you've ever. Anyways, Kurtz was just rolling.
That's awesome. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen or heard of. That's awesome. Yeah. I love it when people do real trolling. So
I mean, they paid money. This is stuff that you put companies up on
college sports right there, buddy.
Yeah,
that is college sports right there. A real rivalry. Yeah, funny stuff, man. Good stuff.
Sorry,
guys. I'm gonna get out of here, but thanks a lot for having me on. I just want to bust your chops a little bit, Couz. Thanks for having me.
I enjoyed it, man. Thanks for coming on.
And nice to meet you, man. Well, I'll
see you,
Jason.
See you on Twitter. See you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Hank asked a question, and I don't know what he's referring to. Trying to find it out.
Let me see. As much as I camp, I'm good with free TV.
And well, up here he says, and who has control of that deal, Couz? Before that, ESPN will probably Mickey Mouse.
Oh, sure.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
probably will.
And I think Outlaw College Football had a good question I missed earlier also about North Carolina bidding war between the SEC and Big Ten. That's going to happen with North Carolina and Duke, and it could very well happen with Clemson and Florida State.
Yeah, I think. It's very possible because those are the two conferences that are leading the charge, basically, and it's almost like everybody else is reacting to what they do.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you got Oregon, Washington are first. Everybody knows it. It's just a matter of when they write the check. And then whatever happens with the SEC and ACC is next.
Yeah. He's asking about the WWE. Right now, the WWE is with Paramount. They're with NBC Universal, which is with their games are on USA Network, and they stream them on Peacock. Because NBC Universal owns both of those companies, is my understanding. And then they also have a relationship with, I think, Fox. Or no, see, what channel SmackDown on?
USA, or is it Fox?
Raw's on USA. I think it's Fox. I believe, Hank.
Yeah, Fox has one of them.
But UFC has a deal with ESPN, so I don't know.
ESPN, Peacock has some wrestling on it. WWE.
Yeah. Now, if you subscribe to Peacock now, you can actually. It's my understanding, if you subscribe to Peacock now, you can actually get the WWE pay-per-views.
You get everything. Peacock. I have Peacock, and it comes with my Comcast, and you don't have to pay for anything. You don't pay for any WWE pay-per-view stuff at all.
How confident are you in the WVU Penn State game? A West Virginia win would help a ton. Not at all, Jared.
Penn State's going to be good.
Penn State's probably going to be a preseason top 10 team, and we will be lucky to get a bowl game again. And I mean, I hate to be negative.
I'm not even going against West Virginia. I think West Virginia could be good. I just think Penn State's going to be fantastic. It's them, and I think Michigan's third this year, honestly.
Tim Prangley, thanks for the super chat, man. $10 super chat. He says, Couz, great show as always. Let's go. What's up, Tim? Thank you for your support, man. I really appreciate it.
Everybody hit that like button and then forward these chats on to your friends on your Twitter and get people watching. Couz has got one of the best shows out there. I'd put him up right with Kurtz and Flugar, and there's a couple others I'm not ready to write name, but yeah, we're coming.
And I consider both of those guys to be. I don't want to call them friends because they may not feel the same about me, but I definitely have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah,
and I do talk to those guys occasionally.
They've mentored me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Kurtz has helped me out multiple times. Anytime I ask, anytime I send him a question, he always answers me back. He's extremely helpful in that regard.
We should just do an open invite. See if they'd like to come on your show. I think.
Yeah. Well, Flugar, actually, he talked about it tonight. He does not do collabs with anybody.
Yeah, I've heard him say that in the past. I also know that he's a pretty smart guy, and he'll follow the eyeballs. I think. I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with what he has going on in his personal life and his schedule. He has trouble scheduling things, kind of like me to a degree. But
I want Virginia Tech for West Virginia. I want Virginia Tech, Louisville, and probably one more.
Pitt.
Yeah, Pitt. Oh well, Pitt would be a steal. I think Pitt might be going to the Big Ten though.
Don't say that. If they get in the Big Ten, I'll never sleep again.
They might be right behind Duke and North Carolina.
Well, they do have the AAU status, so that helps.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the area. I think they want the eyeballs. But I mean, they've got a Rutgers. Rutgers has got some of that, but I think, yeah.
Couz is better than those other guys, whatever their names are. Who are they? No, they're good dudes, man. But I appreciate the love, man. I'm not gonna. I do appreciate it. It means a lot. Well, listen, guys, I've been at almost 2 hours. I do have a long day ahead of me tomorrow, so I'm going to jump off of here. Nathan, thanks again for coming on. Everybody go check Nathan out on Twitter at Big 12 Mafia, at B12 Mafia to be specific. Look him up, communicate with him, and I'm sure he would love to debate or discuss college football with you guys.
Yeah, I'm all college football all the time. I do some pro sports too, Liverpool and Seahawks, but I'm 52, almost 53 years old, so I got a lot of the history about how this stuff got started. Really, we want to call it the golden age of college football. Might as well say 78 to current, so 45 years. And yeah, I'd love to get into it with you and really look forward to it. So
yeah. So thanks everybody for being on here tonight. Some of you have been on here with me since the show started, man, 2 hours ago. So you guys are loyal, and I appreciate you a lot. So take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.